And we are just very excited to welcome in the general manager for the Silver and Black, Mike Mayock. And Mike, where are you right now? Where are you coming to us live from?
I've been at the East-West game all week in Tampa, St. Pete.
So what have the past few weeks looked like just in terms of your travel schedule? Because I imagine this is a very busy time of the year for you.
Yeah, what happens is we kind of move from the regular season into postseason, which means, number one, player reviews, how we stack up our roster, which guys are free agents, and begin to stack those free agents against what we'll be looking at in free agency. The guys at my department, especially Dwayne Joseph, who heads up the pro scouting department, they've been working their tails off trying to get all the grades in on this year's free agents. The college guys have been out scouring the country the entire fall. We had half of our scouts at the East-West game this week. The other half were at the NFLPA game in L.A., so we split our squad up to cover both games because the practices are simultaneously held. And I could not be happier with the group of scouts we have in-house now. They're working their tails off. There's no ego. We're all getting along great. And we've got a bunch of real good guys working hard to make the Raiders better.
Do you see more value in these All-Star games now as a general manager than 2 years ago or whatever it was when you were at the network?
Not really. I think I always knew how much value was there. And, I think the comparison is always, do you like the All-Star games or do you like the Combine better? And I've always liked the All-Star games better because in addition to watching how they move and what, at the Combine you can see a guy move. You can time a guy. You can interview him. But they don't put pads on. And what we get at the East-West game, the NFLPA, the Senior Bowl, is we get one-on-one competition with pads on so you can really break down each individual player. Then obviously we get all the team stuff, 7-on-7, 9-on-7, team. And we get not just watching the practice, but we all get the film afterwards. So it's a great opportunity to give you an example to watch a small school kid, say, who has never faced a significant amount of competition, and then you pop them in at the Senior Bowl, and you say, what's this kid going to be? And a few years ago, Eddie, there was a Division III offensive lineman by the name of Ali Marpet. And Ali came in, and everybody was – I looked at him in the huddle, and he's looking around at helmets of Alabama, LSU, Georgia, Clemson, and here he is, a Division III kid from upstate New York somewhere, and we all wondered how he would do. And the kid played his tail off, competed, and that equalized the level of competition question against this kid went away because he competed against the SEC guys like he belonged. He went in the second round. He's been a starter at guard for Tampa Bay ever since. So I'm a huge fan of the All-Star game.
I'm glad you brought up the Senior Bowl because would you ever have thought in your wildest dreams that week in Mobile last year would produce such great on-the-field production for this team, just 6 months later? I mean, you look at all the guys that we had down there, and nearly everyone stepped in and really performed at a high level in 2019.
Well, I certainly hope so because it's a huge advantage to coach in that game. And what we get as coaches in that game that the rest of the league doesn't is full access to the kids 24/7. We've got them in the meeting rooms. We've got them in the mornings. We've got them at night. And you ought to do a better job with that kind of access. And I think we did maximize it. We drafted 4 kids from last year's Senior Bowl, and the irony is all 4 were on the other team. John Abram didn't even play in the game, but he attached himself to Gruden's hip and my hip the whole week, even though he was hurt and couldn't play. Isaiah Johnson we got in the 4th. Foster Moreau we got in the 4th. Hunter Renfro we got in the 5th. And then, of course, we got Alec Ingold as a free agent. Keelan Doss, our wideout, as a free agent. Tavon Coney on our practice squad. So, we ended up coming out of that game with 4 draft picks, 3 free agents, and we couldn't have been happier with the way the kids played.
Mike, just over a year ago, and it's crazy that it's already been a year, but just over a year ago, introduced as the GM for the Raiders. When you look back over your first 12 or so months, kind of in your position. Has anything about that surprised you, or has the year kind of gone with the ebbs and flows the way you expected it to coming in?
Well, I've spent the last 18 or 19 years working with a lot of the GMs and head coaches around the league. So I had a pretty good feel for the draft process and was pretty comfortable with that. I think the pro free agency was a little different for me. I came in on January 1st, and free agency starts 2.5 months later, and we had a lot of work to do. So that was a major challenge. I think assembling a staff was a major challenge, one which I'm very proud of right now. And I think just the first regular season, the challenge of every week sitting down with John and figuring out, do we need to sign somebody? Are we okay on practice squad? What's the 53 look like? What's the 46 look like? To me, it was really a learning process. It was exhilarating. And, I had a lot to learn. And I'm really appreciative of the fact that I get a year under my belt now, and hopefully I can do a better job next year.
Does the way that you and Coach Gruden communicate change in season to off season?
Well, what happens is I try to kind of stay out of the way publicly because I believe that the regular season is about the coaches and the players. And I feel like my job is to support the coaching staff to whatever extent we can with injuries, free agents, getting guys off the street, guys that can help. And that's tough because John and the coaching staff are working their asses off every week trying to get ready with a game plan. And, so they're working 18 hours a day, and I'm just trying to compliment them and be a part of that process in any way I can.
You said during, leading into the regular season that you said, hey, this is going to be a new year for me because I got a little skin in the game in terms of the results, the wins and losses for the team. Because of that, did that change the way that you physically watched the games on Sunday, Monday, or Thursday night?
Well, I think when you have skin in the game, your level of investment is completely different. And my 85-year-old dad was asking me about that the other day, and he was my high school coach, so he kind of gets what it feels like on game day. And we were talking about that issue, and I was like, Dad, the reason I wanted to get back into it was because of the way you feel on Sundays. And my dad understood that, and I understand that, and it's 3.5 hours during the game of the highest highs and the lowest lows. And I can't describe it any other way because they're half the time you want to puke, half the time you want to celebrate, but at the end of the day, that's what brings you back.
I want to just touch on one guy, actually a couple guys real quick, though. But in terms of Richie Incognito, a guy that you guys felt it was important to bring back, you look headed into this season, you signed him to essentially a prove-it deal. You stood out and you said, hey, we want Richie to be a part of this program, but he's got to prove it to us on and off the field. Obviously, he did that for you guys to feel comfortable rewarding him with a new deal. But what really did you see from Richie this season, both on and off the field, to make you guys as a collective feel comfortable in bringing him back for 2020?
First of all, I had a history with Richie. I knew just about every offensive line coach he's ever played for, and they all loved him, and they all pounded the table for him. So I felt like there was less risk involved with bringing Richie in than the rest of the world did. John loved Richie. What I love about Richie is he came in, he made some promises to us, he kept his mouth shut, played his tail off, and kept all of his promises, both on and off the field. He was great in the O-line meeting room. He helped a lot of the younger offensive linemen. He's a role model for them, whether you believe it or not. The guy comes to work every friggin' day. He gives you everything he has, and then he played at a high level every Sunday. So bringing him back was an easy decision.
We've talked a little bit about the 2019 rookie class, but in all three phases of the game, really, you have guys come in and contribute. Guys are playing a lot of snaps, heavy reps. Is it rewarding for you and Coach Gruden to sit back now, and certainly not rest on your laurels at all, but to sit back and to realize how many just net positives you were able to steal from the draft last year?
Well, I think what I'm most proud of is that it was a collective effort. And what I mean by that is that there's an old saying in the draft world that, it's all about draft and develop. And those last two words, and develop, are really, really critical to the whole. You can draft a bunch of guys, but if the coaching staff doesn't buy in with you and work hard at developing them, it doesn't get done. And I think the thing I like the most is John and I were on the same page from the day we drafted those kids. We had a plan for every single one of them. Now, did some of them exceed our expectations? Yeah, they did. And that was really cool. But I really believe at the end of the day, we had a plan. It was draft and develop. And the coaching staff was outstanding with really working hard at integrating the young guys in at an early stage.
Mike, did you and Coach and the collective, did you really honestly think that this kid from Eastern Michigan was going to show up and be a double-digit sack guy as a rookie?
No. I expected Max to come in and compete his tail off because that's what he does. He jumps off the tape as the Energizer bunny. The cool thing about Max is he's got length and he can bend. And a lot of big guys can't bend. So when you put in length, the ability to bend, and his motor, we knew he had a high chance to succeed in the NFL at a certain point. We also thought he was a little bit power deficient. But I'll tell you, he put on rookies don't put 10, 12 pounds on during their rookie season. He hit the weight room. The nutrition, he bought into the nutrition program. Everything he did was the right thing. And every week he got better. He listens to coaching. He puts weight on. He comes out, and more than anything, though, he plays every week and every day like his hair's on fire. So did he exceed our expectations year one? Absolutely. And I think the challenge for him and the rest of the rookies is to take a big step in year two.
Max obviously on the short list for Defensive Rookie of the Year, but you have a guy on the offensive side of the ball, and Josh Jacobs on the short list for Offensive Rookie of the Year. When you think back to your first kind of interactions with Josh, what really stood out when you had a chance to meet him and spend some time with him?
He was humble and he was hungry. And I was at the Alabama Pro Day, and our running back coach, Kirby Wilson, who I've got so much respect for, Kirby and I sat down with Josh in the running back meeting room the morning of the pro day, and we closed the door and we watched about an hour of tape, the three of us. We concentrated on pass protection. Kirby did a great job of walking him through everything he knew and didn't know about pass protection. We knew he could be an outstanding running back. We wanted to make sure that mentally he could handle what John Gruden does from a pass protection standpoint in our offense. And he picked it up. He was a quick study. He was eager, but again, he was humble and he was hungry. And I think he had a little chip on his shoulder, A, from the way he grew up, and B, because he was never the guy in the backfield in college. And you could really see he came to camp. He was hungry. He didn't want any parts of the media world. He was focused on football. And you can make the argument that he should be the Rookie of the Year in any poll.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Mike Mayock is our guest. And, Mike, just a few more before we let you get out of here, because I know you got a lot to handle today. You look at Derek's year last year, and obviously there were so many moving parts with him. The wide receiver room seemingly turned over week by week. But at the end of the day, DC has a career high in passing yards, completion percentage. He looks so much more comfortable with what Coach Gruden asked him to do than, say, a year ago. How would you kind of look at his year and what he was able to do, considering he was put in a very unique position for most of the season?
Well, I would start with the point that you should never say very unique because it's redundant.
Oh, good point. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that.
Okay. You're a young guy. I just want to help you out a little bit.
I appreciate that.
But as far as Derek is concerned, look, John demands a lot from his quarterbacks. People don't understand how much, just from a verbiage standpoint, all the way to control pre-snap at the line of scrimmage, his percentage of completions, his ability to command the huddle, his ability to command the pre-snap process at the line of scrimmage, his accuracy. He's got arm talent. You look at the development between him and Darren Waller. Darren Waller had 90 catches for over 1,000 yards. Darren Waller is a Pro Bowl tight end by any definition. And then the chemistry he developed with Hunter Renfrow. I think we've got a good offensive line, and what we have to do is a better job of supporting him with some more wide receiver talent, the ability to catch the football, the ability to spread the ball around a little bit. So, Derek handled everything John threw at him mentally. I thought he progressed at a rapid rate in year 2 in John's system.
We're just 2 months out now, more or less, from the start of free agency. How do you think Las Vegas is going to affect free agency for this team, in the short and in the long term?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, we go from a 13% state tax in California to a 0% state tax in Nevada. The players and their agents are very aware of that. I've heard more comments about what our new stadium looks like. That black exterior, the sleekness of it. People are fired up about the Raiders in Vegas. We've got a brand new facility under construction that the players will be living in 7 days a week, state of the art, in every single fashion. So I think there's a real excitement about John Gruden leading the Raiders into Las Vegas, and it extends financially, it extends to our facilities. We're going to be a first-rate operation in every single facet, and I think that energy will trickle through into free agency.
Yeah, I think that's the hope for all of us. So last one, Mike, before we let you get out of here. And once again, we do really, really appreciate you giving us a few minutes on a very busy, what's today, Thursday, I think it is. When you look back at 2019, obviously the team improves, more wins, obviously playing meaningful football week 17, which was a great chance for a lot of these young guys. But what will you remember about 2019? How will you kind of categorize that season in the journey of this team going forward?
Opportunities lost. We're 6-4. We lost 5 of our last 6. I think what it did was illuminate to me that our depth has to get better. We got beat up a little bit, and in the NFL, everybody gets beat up. So I've got to do a better job of helping John have enough depth to get through a season at a high level. So I really think, in my mind, we want to build off the success we had. We want to add to that foundation with more quality, with young players in our rookie class this year. We talk a lot about foundation, both on and off the field. We want to bring great people into our building, both in free agency and the draft. We want to have better depth than we had last year, and we want to finish. And I think that's an important word to me. We want to finish every practice, every game, and ultimately the season in the correct fashion.
Yeah, that sounds good to all of us here, and I know that you and Coach and the staff and everyone is going to be committed wholeheartedly to making sure that happens in 2020 and beyond. So, Mike Mayock, once again, we thank you so much for your time. Get home safe, and we'll be sure to catch up with you when you get back to 1220.
Thanks, Eddie. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.